Good evening, everyone. Hello.
Email, but I have all the mail from that forwarded to this one.
Okay,
And when I first got elected, they spelled my name wrong, and for some reason.
If everyone would please take their seats, we're going to call the meeting to order. It is 7 o'clock, and I do want to respect everyone's time. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming.
Sure.
And who's going to call the roll? And Justin,
Yes.
just to let you all know that our coordinator, James Castaneda, is on a little, well, he's not here today. So Justin Cook, who is with HMMH, he's our technical consultant.
San Francisco's mayor's office. Okay. City and County of San Francisco Airport Commission.
Ivar Satero.
San Mateo County Board of Supervisors. Airport Land Use Commission. Town of Atherton.
Elizabeth Lewis.
City of Belmont. City of Brisbane.
Terry O'Connell.
City of Burlingame.
Ricardo Ortiz.
City of Daly City. City of Foster City. City of Half Moon Bay. Town of Hillsborough.
Sean Christensen.
Thank you. City of Menlo Park. City of Millbrae.
Ann Schneider.
Thank you. City of Pacifica.
Mike O'Neill.
Town of Portola Valley. City of Redwood City.
Janet Borgens for Giselle Hale.
City of San Bruno. City of San Carlos.
Adam Rack.
Oh, that's right.
City of
Yeah.
San Mateo.
Diane Pepin.
Thank you. City of South San Francisco. Town of Woodside. I count 11. Yeah.
So it looks like we only have 11 members present. We need 12, and I understand we're looking for 4 more, but we'll go ahead and open the meeting. And the next item on our agenda are public comments, and I do have, I think, 4 or 5 public comment cards. So we limit this to 2 minutes, and we'll start with Lisa Noble from El Granada, and then Kendra Locke of Daly City. So you can come up to the podium, please, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I live in El Granada, and I was at this meeting about a year and a half ago or so. I haven't been able to attend since then from work, so I'm a little behind. I'm sorry, I'm a little behind on what's been going on. I'm a little behind on what's been going on, but I live right underneath the freeway necessarily, and I noticed things got better recently, like within the last 9 months or so. I even answered yes when Jackie Spears sent an email saying, has it gotten better? And then about 2 or 3 months ago, it went right back to where it was before. I handed out this piece of paper because I think it really illustrates what's going on over my head and over our community, and also over Rancho Corral, which is run by the National Park Service, so I'm also curious if there's laws regarding that. But in any case, there's sort of 3 things I think you all know about. The hours of the day, they're very, very early. They start about 5:15 in the morning. They end around 12:30 or 1, and that's just, I think they end because I'm asleep. But I don't usually track those hours, so that's bad. But what's gotten worse is that they're now lower than they were before. The other thing is the low elevation. Like I said, if you turn the page, you'll notice that in a very short period of time, just a few minutes, they're coming in anywhere between 5,000 or so feet up to 10,000. They used to be 10,000 to 14,000. So that's changed within the last couple of months. And very late at night, like I said, it's almost like they intentionally drop the altitude late at night. And then lastly, the high frequency. So the frequency before was about every 2 to 4 minutes. So basically the time it's taken me to speak is the only time that you haven't heard an airplane over my head. And you'll notice on June 1st, I tracked it for about 4.5 hours. By no means did I get every flight, but you can sort of see the literal bombardment that happens over every couple of minutes, about every, like I said, 2 to 4 minutes. The rest of the pages just kind of go into some of the other tracking I started doing. It just kind of addresses all those same issues. But thank you and please let us know what's happening, and please make it go away.
Okay. Thank you very much. Kendra Locke.
Hi, can you hear me?
I think you have to speak into it.
Okay, is this better?
Whoops.
Test.
Better? Okay, yes, I'm Kendra Locke. I live in Daly City. We've owned our house up there since 2003, and it's always been peaceful. I will say that we did not live in that house until the last year and a half. So I only know the noise and traffic of the airlines over Daly City since about a year and a half ago. Very, very quiet. Nothing. I heard nothing until about 3 months ago, and I will have to agree with the first speaker. It seems like all the planes are flying much lower and a lot faster. And I know if you slow those planes down, it gives us a 5 decibel decrease, which means a lot. So I have a few controversial things I need to say. Here's the map. I'm getting about 30 planes overhead per hour. We live up on the hill in a really nice community, but you know who I'm worried about? It's the Visitation Valley people down below. This is the most underserved community in the peninsula. And I don't think it's fair that so many planes are coming out over per hour. The last 3 days, coincidentally, no air traffic over my neighborhood. Yet, for the last 3 months, I've called noise abatement almost every day. I don't know how that could be. So another controversial thing, I would like to invite all of Willie Brown's appointees with the airport authority to come on over and stay in my house for a couple of nights and days, because it's incredibly noisy, and I figured out a way how I can diffuse the noise in my house. But I am really worried about that community. Just a couple of more things. I'm concerned about that Visitation Valley area because noise traffic is known to cause cardiovascular disease and also post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm a writer, an artist, an activist, and I will tell you, I've been experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder for the last 3 months. So I don't know what they did in the last 3 days. It's been so quiet over our home, and I would never, ever call. Like I said, I've been in that house for a year and a half. It's been quiet until 3 months ago. So obviously something different is happening, as the first speaker mentioned. Here's my suggestion. Go slow and fly high. Okay? Thank you
so much. Thank you so much. Our next public comment speakers are Charlie Wambach of San Francisco and Lynn Israelit of Burlingame. Charlie?
Hi, my name's Charlie Wambach, and I live in San Francisco, and I've been in my house 52 years this month. A couple things, it really irks me that these public comments you put down here, roundtable members cannot discuss or take action. That it says the roundtable members cannot discuss or take action on any matter raised in this item. Well, you know, it's a public forum. One thing that I have, I looked up your MOU. You had an MOU in 1981, 1997, and 2005. And Article 2, the agreement, number 5, says, support and abide by Roundtable Resolution number 93-01, which states in part that the Roundtable members as a group will not take any action that would result in the shifting of noise from one community to another related to aircraft operations at San Francisco Airport. That memo was written, 10 years before the 2015 Next Gen started bombarding our neighborhoods. You've already shifted the noise. You have not lived up to the MOU to stop noise from coming over our neighborhoods. And as far as I'm concerned, you ought to fire yourselves, okay? If you can't do it the darn job and get them off, instead you kowtow to the FAA and they say, oh, we don't want to shift noise. We're going to ask the people in Tiburon if they would mind us flying over them. Well, Mission Bay and the rich communities have already shifted the noise over to us, and it's about time we stopped it.
Lynn, you're up.
Hi, I'm Lynn Israelit from Burlingame, and I represent a community group of activists from the Millbrae, Burlingame, San Mateo, and Hillsborough area. I just wanted to bring up a point so that it doesn't get lost. Our neighborhoods had experienced an increase in noise about 2 to 3 years ago. It was around the time that Next Gen was started, and there was a thought or a hypothesis that perhaps in order to get up higher faster with new flight paths, the planes were taking off at greater velocities and at steeper angles, and that was why suddenly our neighborhoods just below the hills were getting this backblast sound that has been really a problem for our communities. I know that studies are going to be done, there are proposals out there, and we will be hopefully purchasing new sound measuring equipment, but of course that could all take a very long time. And my hope is that the airport might be able to start some sort of trials to see if it reduces the noise that we hear without having to wait for another 2 or 3 years until the formal studies are begun. Just the summer is coming, windows are going to be open, and I have to say I dread having another summer with my air conditioning on and my windows closed because I can't enjoy the outdoors. So I was hoping that maybe that could be something that could be started sooner rather than later.
Are there any more members of the public who wish to speak? I have no more public comments, speaker cards. Okay. Say what? It's on the agenda. Oh, number 2. Okay, yes, Mary Jo, of course. Yes. See, public comments number 2. Yeah, and she did.
So I don't know if it will be covered. So I just saw that the airport published the Palo Alto noise report. They did some monitoring in November, December, which was great because we had been waiting for that. But I want to make 2 comments on that report for people who may not be very familiar with noise reports. The number 1 comment is that the report right now, as it is published, uses a threshold of 60 dB, which is a very high threshold to measure noise, aircraft noise. In comparison, Woodside and Portola Valley or Brisbane, et cetera, have much lower thresholds at 50, 52 dB, 55 dB. And there is a huge difference between 50 dB and 60 dB. It's a logarithmic scale. So that's one. And the second thing is the report doesn't talk about the sound energy level, which is very important. It's not just the peak. When you look at this peak, they're pretty high, but not that high. What you want is the time duration, because the aircraft makes noise for quite a while, at least 30 seconds. So the sound energy level is very important, as the consultant mentioned in the report. So we know, I also know, and I want to thank the airport, that they're going to republish, redo the data, recalculate the data, because they have the raw data with thresholds that are very similar to what Woodside and Portola Valley and other cities. I don't know when this will be done, but hopefully soon. And I hope that you will republish, because otherwise it's very difficult. We can't compare apples to apples. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Liz, I do have your card. I'm sorry, I misread it.
live in the Visitation Valley in San Francisco. I just wanted to mention for the folks that might be here or might be listening that aren't really sure how to make their voice heard, that they know the correct steps that you should take. I want to mention, first of all, that you really need to reach out to your congressional representatives. That's really, really important. Secondly, we all know that we need to report on the SFO noise abatement office site or the Stop Jet noise site. We really need to have the numbers there, because what it does is it gives that your representatives that come here, they volunteer their time, but they also need to know that, you know, this is really affecting people, and it gives them the ability to allocate time and resources to this issue. And I also want to mention that I think there might be some confusion that this is a community group, and it really isn't. It's a political organization. So these are all elected officials that sit on this board. There's nobody here from the actual community that sits and is a voting member on this board. And so the reason that this is important is because the FAA communicates with political organizations like the Roundtable and Noise, who you'll hear about later today. And they actually don't engage with the community itself. So I think that's just an important distinction to make. And I want to also mention that the community, regardless of where you're from, it's important that we all talk to one another and we organize together. And there are rights that we have, and they're kind of hidden, and we don't necessarily know what they are. So I think it's important that we all communicate the information we do have. And all of us together, I think we can make a difference. So thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you very much. So just 1 second. I want to welcome 2 more members of our roundtable to the meeting. Edward McCaffrey from Mayor Breed's office. Thank you very much for attending. And then Councilwoman DiGiovanni from
Daly City.
Daly City. Oh, good. Thank you so much. Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no more public comment, speaker cards.
I put it for number 11 because I didn't understand what any of the things.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I saw, are you John Boykin? Okay, yeah, I didn't, yes. John from Belmont.
My name's John Boykin. I live in Belmont on the peninsula. I'm new to this group, so I don't know all of the history of things. What I do know is that starting on or about April 1st, the flight patterns seem to have changed, and whereas we've lived in our home for 30 years, 30 quiet years, and we would not have chosen to buy that house had we known that it was going to be under a flight pattern. April 1st, they changed the pattern. Now, my wife, who's a light sleeper, cannot sleep. I have boarded up the windows with 3/4-inch plywood in the bedroom. Our bedroom is now a dungeon. So to block out as much of the noise as possible, it has helped, but it has not solved the problem because planes are going over about every 5 minutes, day and night. If there is some cutoff time, I'm unaware of when it is. I guess it's when I go to sleep like you. It would seem that the goal, I understand that planes have to fly over somebody, but it would seem that the goal would be to have them fly over as few people as possible, to affect as few people as possible. What I've seen when I go on a walk in Belmont is planes going directly over the heart of the peninsula, as though they're trying to go between 280 and 101, as though the objective had been, how can we affect the maximum number of people? We've got no explanation. We've got no explanation of why that happened then. Is this permanent? Is it going to end next week? That would be a great answer. The only thing I've heard is that it's supposedly for some safety purpose, which I frankly don't believe. I have been around, I've got enough gray hair remaining that I'm pretty sure that it has a lot more to do with airline jet fuel costs and time rather than safety.
Until just recently, so they
On Jackie Spears' website, I know she's been involved with this for several years, going back and forth with the FAA.
John, that's your time.
What's taking so long? Affect as few people as possible, not the most.
Thank you very much for your comments. And I'd like to welcome Marty Medina from our San Bruno. Thank you so much for coming. All right. So we're going to move on to our consent agenda, but prior to that, I do want to ask that all the members of the public, we are so glad that you take time out of your lives and come and talk to us. We're a forum of elected officials of San Mateo County. This is we do not control the FAA. We do not control the San Francisco airport. We're here to try to advocate on your behalf as best as we can. There is a sign-up sheet at the table when you come in, and it would be really helpful if everyone would sign in so that we have a sense of who's come and how many people are here at any meeting. We do have members from the FAA who have come to talk to us tonight, and they will be presenting and having an opportunity to answer questions from the roundtable members and possibly from the and from members of the public. If you want to put a speaker card in for those items. Other than that, we're going to be respectful in every thing that we say and do. We don't want public outbursts, and we understand the level of frustration that people do feel. It's a high anxiety experience to be awakened in the middle of the night, and you have to be rest assured that every member of this roundtable body sitting here before you wants to make things better as much as they can. So we're trying to work through the processes to do that. We have a very short consent agenda. It is our director report from January, February, and our Fly Quiet report. The information is on the website and in the packets in front of you. If I could have any questions on that item. Yes, Mike.
Last month I asked if we could have the flight paths and the noise levels from Oakland separate, and I couldn't quite find it, so I was just wondering if staff could direct me where in the report it is.
So I don't know. Bert cannot at this point. I think that they're not included in the report. Is that correct, Bert? Correct. Yeah.
Yes, sir. We did recognize your ask on that question. We have not had a technical working group committee to go ahead and form that for the document.
So hopefully, Mike, we can put that together next. As you know, this last month we did not have a technical working group. There were a lot of schedule conflicts, and so we can look forward. I think.
So we can understand that will be on in the report next month.
So
or next meeting.
August meeting would be
August meeting.
The next, if we.
If the technical working group would like it in there, yes, it will be.
Okay.
If you would prefer the data yourself, we'd be happy to provide it to you.
No, I think it's something that needs to be shared, but I just want to be sure it was there because I know several people would like to see it there that are on the
This is the first request we've had for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Any other comments on the consent agenda? If none, I'd like to call for a motion to approve. So moved. Second? Moved by Ricardo, our vice chair, and second by Janet Borgens, Redwood City. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The consent calendar passes. The Peter Grace had a comment on the agenda item number 3, which is the airport director's reports. Peter, do you want to speak on this? Peter's from Brisbane.
it working?
Go. Okay.
The director's report,
2 minutes.
the premise for the director's report is based on thresholds, as Mary Jo Fremont described. And the thresholds determine the number of noise events and the CNL, which is used for the Flying Jesus. Let me give you an example. Consider my height as 0 noise events here. Huge number at the bottom. I don't know where it is. What this green line is the threshold that's chosen by the airport. Anything above the green line is counted as noise events and goes to the CNL. Anything below the green line, is considered as community noise. So with the threshold at this level here, I'm a bit stuck, you know.
You have
Well,
an
this is
assistant.
tremendous.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. So anything above the green line is considered within the as a noise event is considered within the CNL, and anything below the green line here is considered as community events. If we raise the threshold from here to here, the events that were considered at this point are now considered as community noise events. Are now considered as community noise events. Why is this important? I did a study in Brisbane for a particular day. The threshold was set by the airport at this level. There were X events. When we lowered the threshold from 65, the figure that the airport used, to 55, there were 4 times more noise events. So when Mary Jo Fremont talks about the importance of the threshold, it is absolutely vital, and there should be a public discussion about what indeed is an appropriate threshold. And I will describe later what the law says. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. All right. So the next on the regular agenda is our SFO updates from Ivar Soterio, Airport Director. Ivar?
Okay, thanks. Good evening, everyone. And just, you know, as a note, there was a question that came up a couple meetings ago about public comment and getting responses to public comment. And I think, you know, one of the thing is SFO, we have a lot of resources here at these meetings, and I encourage you to talk to our folks here. Everyone probably knows Bert by now, the head of noise abatement. We also have John, part of our noise abatement team, and now Alex is also part of our team. Please talk to them, and they're glad to provide whatever information or data you're looking for, and support the community in that way. And you know, I take notes with public comment, and at the next meeting, I try to return and start to answer those questions, because some of them are pretty complicated. And you know, the question about 3 months ago, has something changed? And so I'm curious about that myself. You know, has something changed? And I don't have a good answer today, but that's something certainly we're gonna look at, and we'll respond at the next meeting. So I want the community to know that we take it all in and we do our best to be responsive. And at the next meeting, it's always my intent to try to cover those things that need me to do a little more digging and talking through things. So as updates on what's going on at the airport, I'll just say today was a big day, and unrelated to air traffic, but related to roadway traffic. We moved Uber and Lyft pickups into the 5th floor of the garage. So if you go home and turn on the news, you'll see a lot about that. But it really, initially, it seems like it's really helping the roadway congestion issue and the backups out to 101. And it also has a great environmental benefit. We've analyzed from the idling of cars trying to get to the airport and all the Uber and Lyft rides, and it has a significant 1,700 tons of greenhouse gas emission potential reduction. That's about 10% of the emissions that we control. So I think it's a great solution, and today is day 1, and we'll be seeing how it operates and making changes, but I think people seem a lot happier about the operation currently. We have a runway closure coming up in September. We're seeing major failures, and there's been emergency closures now over the past 8 months, about 12 emergency closures. We have found a section of pavement that needs a complete replacement, a fairly sizable section of pavement. So for September, for 3 weeks, we'll be shutting down our 28 left runway. It will not likely change the operation like you see when we have rainy weather or storms, you know, and some communities get relief during those times of the year. So it'll still be a standard operation, but we're working with the airlines to reduce flight activity, and that's how we reduce delays, and that's how we try to mitigate some of the late flights that that come in after midnight. You know, we don't like delays because it pushes flights into the late hours of the evening. So we're working with the airlines now and asking for voluntary flight reductions, and we've engaged the FAA to help us with this effort. We've been successful doing this previously on runway programs like this. So it's a 3-week, 20-day closure. We're actually awarding the contract for an accelerated schedule, hopefully in the neighborhood of 15 days, but that will be September. GBAS status, our ground-based augmentation system initiative. We're making progress. We expect to begin the physical hardware piece installation at the airport. As people may know, it's a $10 million investment we're making into a GPS-based navigation system to help with delays and to help customize innovative approaches that could have, we are hopeful have, community benefit. And so the hardware installation is happening later on this year, so we're proceeding with awarding the contract for the equipment. We are still hopeful to begin begin flying the overlay procedures in April of next year, April 2020. And I think that's a schedule we had talked about before. And then at the same time working on the more innovative procedures and looking at about spring of 2021. So part of our commitment was to continue to update you on the implementation of GBAS. And I think we have a website, don't we, that we keep updated on this, Bert? Okay, we will. Do we have a time for when we think we'll have that, Bert? Available for the public? Okay, so you can access information there about GBAS. Our second chance noise insulation program, let's go ahead and put up that chart. So a popular program, clearly we've gotten there's two parts to this, the replacement program. Do we have that graphic? I think we do. Okay, thanks. So I'll let you know. For the replacement part of that, we've had 767 applications, and we've determined 586 of those are within the noise exposure map. So they are eligible. That's about 76%. There it is there. You can see all the communities. South San Francisco is the most notable applicant with 700 applicants. For our second chance program, we've had 501 applications and determined 167 to be within the noise exposure map, about 33%. We've done initial site surveys of properties inside the noise exposure. We've visited 357 properties so far and done acoustical testing on 15 of those properties. And we anticipate we'll do the replacement and the upgrades in blocks of 10 to, or 15 to 30 homes at a time. We are hopeful to begin work later this year. Passenger traffic, we have seen a trend of decreasing passenger traffic, and we haven't seen that in years. It's about domestic traffic. Domestic passenger traffic is down about 3%. International traffic is up about 6%. We have a graphic of where our new international flights are too. But overall, the airport is essentially flat in terms of passenger traffic. And there's some of the new flights. The good thing about the new flights, well, there's one early flight, which is the El Al flight that started in May. That's a 6 a.m. arrival, and it's 2 flights a week. The rest occur afternoon and early part of the evening. So those are our new international flights. Night Hush. Night Hush is the next item I'll talk about. Is This is an initiative that was originally proposed by the Roundtable's review of the FAA's Metroplex Next Gen implementation. And Night Hush is an existing procedure that tracks aircraft using overwater departures from San Francisco. So it flies up the bay and out the Golden Gate, remaining over the bay for the duration of its flight in the vicinity of the airport. And so the ask of the FAA is to utilize this approach more instead of the flights that turn over the southern part of the city and some over Brisbane. And so the ask is at the evening hours to use this approach or this departure to the extent possible. And so we've started meetings. The FAA is committed to working with us on, is this a viable departure to use? There's a lot of complications because of Oakland also would use Night Hush as well. And what that does for them is impact another community. And so, as you know, one of the tenets is not to shift noise over to another community. So we've asked the FAA to look at a couple different things of how this could be flown and that would not shift noise. And we would be able to proceed further with this. And the next step we've talked about is to engaging the airlines and talk about the ability to fly this and continue work on this. But I think it's a strong first step to keep moving on this and see if it's a viable option. Again, one of the basic tenets of what we're doing is to not shift noise, but we won't know that until we've gone further in the study and analysis of this. We had Noise 101 tours and great participation, and a tower tour and an airfield tour. Thank you for everyone who participated in that. I think there is more, someone else will brief on that later on, Council, okay. Great, and then portable noise monitoring. We completed the quarterly reports for Brisbane, Portola Valley, and Woodside, and currently we have a portable deployed in San Francisco. So, that.
Great, thank you. I just want to thank you for the Hush, Night Hush update. That also is one of our agenda items, number 8. And so I was going to also add that in connection, we'll just jump to that real quickly, and then we will omit it later, is that I had reached out to Oakland, one of the co-chairs, and I know I can see one of the co-chairs here tonight, but Benny Lee, San Leandro councilman, and it seems like Oakland is interested in working with us because that was one of the instructions from the FAA, that we make sure that Oakland is good with whatever procedure gets modified. And so what Ivar has said, that with the airlines involved and the airports, there's some movement there. So I feel optimistic about getting some good results from it. So does any of the members have any questions for Ivar on his update? Ann?
Hi. If we can get a copy of the slides and maybe they can get posted to the website, that would be great.
Oh, sure, right here.
I'm a little rusty, but I thought the airport is beginning to look at new contours and that evaluation is beginning. So when you look at the data for which houses can be affected by insulation programs, it's based on a change. The contours used to be much greater. So many more houses in Millbrae, for example, are covered. Under the current contours, only 3 houses in Millbrae qualify under the insulation program because, please correct me if I'm wrong, the noise that we're looking at is in-flight noise, no ground-based noise. So I just want to keep it on the record that the backblast noise and any other airport-based noise is affecting neighborhoods that are immediately adjacent to the airport. And none of those neighborhoods, with the exception of those 3 houses, are inside any of the contours. And that speaks for San Bruno, maybe Burlingame on that. So, but I thought that the contours are being evaluated, and that might be at an FAA level.
Bert?
It's a land use.
Are you?
No, I don't think.
So maybe it's something we were wishing for at the ground-based noise level. And then my only other reminder with Night Hush, yay, except if it's using runway 1 and to make sure that there's no additional runway 1 takeoffs. We have new Roundtable people. Every time you shift a runway, especially at nighttime, on runway 1 left or 1 right means that the neighborhoods of Burlingame, Hillsborough, Millbrae get this backblast wave, and we get it up until 3 o'clock in the morning. So just, I'm going to be the nervous nag here saying no additional runway 1s.
Any other, Janet?
Thank you, thank you. That's, excuse me, that's a great report, so I appreciate that. Could you just refresh me quickly, okay, on, because I don't want to take the rest of your meeting, you could go on when you go in and do the inspections, what does that incur? When you go into someone's house and you make the determination that they qualify for those that may not know what that is, what do you do?
Yeah, boy.
Do you have a, do you have a noise machine that goes into their
We have
home?
a noise. We take noise monitoring inside the home.
And that is a what decimal? What to what? Is that 60 CNL? Is that that?
Anyone? Bert?
4, 5, 45, 45?
45. Okay, great. Okay, I was just curious on to where that was. Yeah, and then to yeah.
Sorry, it starts with the home reside within the CNEL's contours. So any house outside of that, we wouldn't even go measure because it's not eligible because federal law prohibits us from spending money off the airport and outside of these noise contours.
Okay, so I know we can't talk about some of the things that aren't on the agenda today, but I'm just going to kind of briefly cross that line just a moment. So for some of the things that were said,
Janet.
I know, but could we just? How do you determine that? Is it automatically determined by history?
The contours?
The contours.
No, that's the, yeah.
No, the noise contours are generated quarterly for the state of California, and then every 5 years or 1.5 decibel change. We do it again for the federal. Now, as far as the federal contours we're looking at, what they want to see is that the home is within the 65 decibel noise contour or greater. They then want to see that we have measured within the home to make sure that it's compliant at 45 decibels or lower. If it is, that's it. It's done. Now, then if the home is treated, they want to see a 5 decibel noise reduction.
Thank you. That is very explanatory. And then thank you also for saying that you'll look into some of the things that we heard. I appreciate that.
Sure. Any other members have a comment? Okay. We're going to go on to item number 5. Doug.
Can you hear me now? Is this on? Yes. Okay. Appreciate the opportunity to provide a briefing this evening on the airport's airport development plan. This is essentially a long-term planning study that will guide future development of facility projects at our airport. So I'll get going on the slides here. Just for a little bit of background in terms of SFO and kind of where we find ourselves today. As you know, SFO out of the 3 Bay Area airports is the largest of the Bay Area airports. It's about 2/3 of the total traffic in the Bay Area. Oakland and San Jose split the other 1/3. When we measure airport size, we measure it by passenger traffic, and by that measure, SFO is the 7th largest airport in the U.S., 23rd largest in the world. In 2018, we accommodated about 58 million passengers, which generated a lot of economic impact. We've got about 43,000 people that work right at SFO. We're the largest job center in San Mateo County. We also saw about $8.4 billion in business activity from the businesses that operate at the airport. One of the things we've talked about in the Noise Roundtable quite a bit over the years is the restrictions that U.S. airports face when it comes to airline activity. And you know, if you've been in these meetings, that we've talked about this before, the fact that federal law prohibits airports like SFO from telling airlines how many flights to operate, when to operate, what type of aircraft to operate. So that's kind of one of the levers that airports don't have that I know we struggle with this in this forum, is the fact that airports can't dictate the growth that happens at their own facility. the best that we can do is have a plan in place to deal with it. So this airport development plan is really all about that, and it's really designed to kind of answer the question, what do we need to do to get up to the maximum number of passengers that our airport could serve? As you know, we've got a total of 4 runways. We're not planning on building additional runways. So eventually we'll reach a point where there won't be any more room for activity at SFO. And we think that the maximum number of passengers that our airport can serve is about 71 million. So the airport development plan is really designed to answer the question, what do we need to do with our facilities to get from where we're at today to that maximum? Now, we really don't know how long it'll take us to get to that point. Ivar just talked about the fact that for the first time in many, many years, traffic is actually down at SFO. So this really has to do with economics, airline health, their growth plans. So we don't know how long it'll take us to get to this point. We think it'll probably happen in about 12 years or so. So the airport development plan is really a long-range planning study. It'll guide the future development of our airport, and essentially it replaces the airport's master plan, which created a lot of the projects that you actually see underway right now. And just for a quick review, some of the ongoing projects created by the previous master plan, the airport hotel, which is going to open later this summer, it's a Grand Hyatt. The redevelopment of a new Terminal 1 facility, and the first section of that opens at the end of July. And then also an additional parking structure which opened earlier this spring at the north end by the interchange of 380. So again, just some projects that were created under the previous master plan. So this airport development plan really forms the basis for environmental review, and the airport plans to seek environmental permitting for a host of theoretical projects, a host of potential future projects, such that when there is an actual need realized for one of these projects to be financed and phased for construction, the environmental side has already been addressed. This includes proposed terminal, roadway, and support facilities, but as I mentioned, does not include any plans for runway expansion. The goal of the ADP is to continue to modernize the facility, to keep the passenger experience at a high level, and to really match all of our facilities with that existing runway capacity. What the ADP won't do, it won't change runway configurations, it won't change flight paths at SFO, it won't expand the airport property footprint, and as I mentioned, it won't increase our runway capacity in any way. There's a host of potential projects that we're evaluating. Green colors are parking structures, medium green are support facilities, but really I want to focus on the blue-colored areas, and these are really passenger-focused facilities, and I just want to call out a few of them. One is the potential redevelopment of our international terminal, our main hall. Right now, there are 2 security checkpoints on either side that lead to a concourse, and the challenge is that if passengers want to go from one concourse to the other, they got to exit out of security, they got to go through screening again. We're looking at creating a single central security checkpoint in the middle of the main hall and making the back half of the facility essentially post-security. This would allow customers to move from one concourse to the other without having to go through security again. This also increases the flexibility of where airlines can operate their flights. We're also looking at building an additional concourse or boarding area, as we call it. We letter our boarding areas A through G. One of the potential projects would be the creation of a boarding area H, which would extend out from where the BART station is currently located and add several gates to our international terminal area. And then the last one gets to what Ivar was talking about today, and that's the relocation of categories like Uber and Lyft. Right now we have them operating pickups at the top level of a garage that was built 40 years ago, and essentially what we want to do is in that same area create a brand new mixed-use facility that could be a mix of public parking, office facilities, and a ground transportation pickup center that would alleviate some of the roadway congestion that we've been seeing. So this is just an example of some of the projects that might be included in the ADP. In terms of the timeline for this, right now where we're at is in notice of preparation and public scoping meetings. And the goal is by later this year or early next year to be in a position where we have a draft environmental impact report available to share with the public. And that triggers that public review period and that 45-day window of time. And we'll obviously keep you informed as this timeline comes further into focus. And the goal being that by sometime in the middle of next year, we can finalize that EIR certify it, and adopt it. Now, the potential projects that are contained within this won't really be triggered until there is a need realized for any of these projects. And I would stress that in terms of how this influences flight activity at SFO, whether or not we do these projects, airline growth will happen or won't happen regardless of these projects. But really what we're trying to do is maintain a certain level of service for our passengers at SFO. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions or comments.
Okay, Diane.
I know I've asked you this before, but I can't remember the answer. What do you anticipate the percentage of flight increase with the numbers that will be coming in from, what was it, 50 million to 70 million?
Yeah, so in terms of flight activity, right now, we average about 1,250 flights per day. And I think about the maximum number that our runway system could accommodate is about 1,500. So whatever that percentage difference is between 1,250 to 1,500.
Okay.
Okay. Any other members of the roundtable have questions for Doug about the airport? Okay, yes, Ann.
Going backwards, when I read the EIR for the work on the runways, and I didn't find an EIR on the hotel. When you did the EIR for the hotel, did you study the type of noise that might bounce off that hotel? And for any of the future projects, are you looking at how noise might bounce from any new buildings being built?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll have to research that and get back to you.
All right, and this would be the same, sadly, and I will fault the city of Millbrae on this. When you did the environmental review for the runway 1 left and right extensions, moving them 450 feet and 250 feet closer to Millbrae, we didn't comment on that. We commented on what might happen to Highline Canal, and we did not look at the impact of ground-based noise. So I'm going to be looking for that now and making sure that our technical staff look for that. So I'm just kind of giving you a warning for that. But also the, I'm sorry, I just got in from London. I'm a little jet laggy. Any work that you're going to do on the international terminal affects San Bruno, Millbrae, Hillsborough, and Burlingame. And a lot of that noise doesn't get counted yet until we get ground-based noise working better and accounting for that. So I would really appreciate that any of those changes have, even just turning off an ADU can have a considerable impact. And that has to start showing up in these environmental documents. Thank you.
Okay, I would tell you that we're going to be following the CEQA and the NEPA process and everything that's included in that.
Yeah, but I read the noise sections, and the noise sections under the past EIRs, and it's not your fault. I think the whole technical body within the EIRs right now don't look at low-frequency noise. They look at in-flight high-frequency noise, and they keep, noise is not my specialty, but I work in the environmental field, and I hate to use this word, aghast at how poorly noise was handled in the EIR for the previous work. And I just would expect that the next EIR comes through, that we start coming into the 21st century and we look at low-frequency noise, we look at vibration, we look at these things that are not currently being done within the body of an EIR.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Seeing no other comments from the roundtable members, thank you very much, Doug. I guess one of my questions was, is it going to expand any kind of retail opportunities when you go in? Are you redoing all of that for passenger enjoyment while you're waiting for flights?
I expect that it would. Both the reconfiguration of the international terminal and the boarding area H would, I think, drive some different opportunities for business development.
Okay. I think you guys are doing a great job making it user-friendly.
Elizabeth, I have a question.
Pardon me? Yes? Oh, Michael. Yes.
Hi. Okay, the EIR will cover the population and the traffic, correct? And the traffic count?
Will it cover, are you talking aircraft traffic or roadway traffic?
101 traffic, 380 traffic.
I expect that it would, yes.
That most EIRs do. And will the airport be responsible for any of the mitigation of the 101 and 380 additional BART cars or anything like that? Will they be responsible with their additional revenue they're getting?
Might have to defer to some of my, or we'll get back to you on that one. We'll have to get back to you on an answer with that.
We'll have to.
It's basically congestion relief? Yeah.
Yeah. Good comment, Mike. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you, Doug. Moving on to item number 6, the Pirate 2 update. I'm going to turn it over to our consultant, Justin Cook, and we do have one speaker card on this from the public. Justin?
Sure, yeah, I'll give an update. So the Pirate 2 was published on April 25th. Within days of using it, NorCal Approach realized that there were extensive conflicts in the airspace with departures in the Bay Area, specifically because of the crossing restriction at 15,000 feet, which they had adjusted from the initial publication. So on May 15th, I believe, they reverted back to the previous way of doing things, which is more manually bringing those arrivals in until they could figure out what to do with the current Pirate.
Okay. And there was a little bit of a further update that I think Raquel,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
it?
I think I covered it.
Okay,
but I don't
was the
if there's-
10,000 feet? Yes, Joe,
Yeah.
Joe Brook from the FAA. He is a technical analyst at the Western Service Center up in Seattle. He came down to talk with us. If you remember Mindy Wright, he works in Mindy's group. Joe.
Elizabeth, could you have them explain what Pirate is? Because there's several of us that are new to this body, and Pirate usually has an eye patch.
I'd be happy to do
sword.
that.
Yeah, well, it gets more into the Pirate eye patch because there's a crossway at ARG. Joe, if you can give us a brief.
You did that well.
So my name is Joe Brook. I'm an analyst up in the Seattle Western Service Center for the FAA. So prior to February of 2019, aircraft that came in over the Woodside VOR came in one of 2 ways.
Can you try to use less acronyms for people,
We'll try.
VOR?
Yes, I'm
'Cause
sorry.
I will correct you every time, okay?
Please do. It's the
I'll just
FAA
go
is-
ding, ding.
The FAA is full of acronyms, and I speak it, and so I assume everybody else does. So please, ask me to. So a VOR is a omnidirectional navigation beacon. It's something that aircraft tune into to follow in. It's a navigational beacon. So prior to February of 2019, aircraft coming into Oakland and San Francisco, oceanic aircraft coming into Oakland and San Francisco, came in one of 2 ways. They came in over the tailored arrival, which is a private arrival. It was only open to a couple of airlines that paid for it. That was an optimized profile descent. So aircraft would cross OSI, or the Woodside VOR, on a profile descent, usually around 6,000 feet. All other aircraft that were coming in over the ocean came over the Pirate waypoint to the Woodside VOR. They crossed Pirate at about 10,000 feet. They crossed Woodside VOR at 8,000 feet under the issue agreement, with a few exceptions for aircraft if there was a safety issue. So if there was a safety issue, they may be brought in lower. But for the most part, all those aircraft were at 8,000 feet. In February, I believe February 28th, the Pirate was published, and it was immediately removed from service because there was a charting error that did not include a crossing restriction at the Pirate waypoint of 15,000 feet. So what the Pirate was meant to do was create an OPD for aircraft.
Ding, ding.
OPD, optimized profile descent. So that is allows aircraft to glide at a more fuel efficient setting, rather than the traditional way of descending where controllers step them down. Tell them to descend to 12,000 feet, then 10,000 feet, 8,000 feet, whatever. This allows them to glide down at an optimized profile. That 15,000 feet was missed, so the Pirate 1 was NA'd, or made not available immediately. The correction was made, and it was published again on April 25th as the Pirate 2. Nothing else on the Pirate changed. It was just adding in that crossing restriction at Pirate Waypoint, which is about approximately 20 miles offshore, if I recall. That was published April 25th. As Jesse said, issues were discovered with it where aircraft crossing the Pirate, or the Pirate Waypoint at 15,000 feet were conflicting with departing aircraft out over the ocean. So on May 15th, the NCT made the decision to
Ding, ding.
NorCal Tracon.
Northern California Tracon. Thank you. Like I said, it's second nature to me. Northern California Tracon, which is the facility that controls aircraft between aircraft on the runway at the airport and at the center stratums high up. They made the decision to go back to 10,000 feet at Pirate. Aircraft today are still flying the Pirate 2. In arrival provides lateral and vertical guidance. They are still flying the lateral guidance of the Pirate 2. They are not flying that vertical guidance at Pirate. They are being manually descended to 10,000 feet at Pirate, but they are still flying that Pirate arrival. And then at Woodside VOR, I forgot this in the earlier explanation, excuse me, Woodside VOR was replaced with, as Jesse said, ARG, A-R-G-G-G, it's a waypoint. RNAV, or GPS-guided procedures, use waypoints. And so Woodside VOR is a conventional navigation, and GPS doesn't work well with that, so they use waypoints. Does that
So
answer
can I
questions?
ask you a question,
Please.
Joe? So at ARG,
Yes.
after they are at Pirate 20 miles offshore, 10, at what altitude are they coming in over ARG?
They are still crossing ARG at 8,000 feet.
Okay.
So
Okay, just for everyone's understanding, he referred to the SU letter, which years ago she said you have got to keep the planes at least at 8,000 feet coming over the Woodside VOR, okay? And that was voluntary, it wasn't a procedure, but that was like a goal that we wanted to make. And through the select committee process with working with the FAA, that was one of the requests of the select committee to the FAA that they would make that a hard and fast procedure so that no aircraft, because some aircraft were coming in over much lower, sometimes 6,000, sometimes 5,000 over the Woodside VOR, and that was creating a lot of Woodside concerns.
correct. So I should add too, once the Pirate was published in February, the tailored arrival that only a few airlines used was no longer being used. I'm not sure if it's been removed from service, but it's no longer being used by aircraft. All aircraft are now coming in via that Pirate.
And so the numbers of aircraft, have they increased because it is now open to all aircraft and not just the tailored arrival?
No, so the number of oceanic aircraft has not changed. It's still the same number of aircraft coming in over the ocean. Those aircraft that were either on the tailored arrival or coming in over the Pirate Waypoint to the Woodside VOR are the same aircraft that are now just flying the Pirate procedure, which is essentially the same as what they were flying with the Pirate and the Woodside VOR.
Okay. So the update on the Pirate procedure is now, they're not going to go back to it being higher at 15,000?
So that has not been determined yet.
Okay.
They're still deciding what they're going to do. So as it stands right now, the Pirate 2 is being flown for lateral guidance, but controllers are issuing vertical guidance.
Okay. So
Question?
lateral guidance is the GPS railroad track.
They are flying the route.
Right, the route.
The path over the ground.
The path over the ground. Okay. And then once they pass ARG, which is the Woodside VOR, then they're vectored or dispersed?
Yep, no change from what it was before.
No change
The,
from what
the
it was.
previous, it wasn't a procedure, but the previous practice was at Woodside VOR, it terminated and aircraft were vectored to the approach.
Okay.
And that's what's happened, that's what happens with the Pirate now.
Okay. Any other roundtable? Mike, you have a question?
Okay, if they're flying at 8,000 over Woodside, I have been told, and correct me if I'm wrong, that some of the altitudes in North Peninsula are 2,500, 3,000, et cetera. Is that true? They're less than 8,000.
The 8,000 foot is MSL, mean sea level, so above sea level.
Okay.
So yes, AGL, which is above ground level, it would be less, correct.
Okay, so then the Woodside is AGL, right? Because it's
No.
landlocked.
No, well, the crossing restriction prior to Pirate was 8,000 feet MSL.
Right.
Everything in air traffic is MSL. So there's been no change on that. It is, before Pirate, it was crossing 8,000 feet at the Woodside VOR under the issue agreement at 8,000 feet MSL. Under the Pirate, it's crossing ARG at 8,000 feet MSL.
So in the North Peninsula, are we below or less than 8,000 feet?
It would be, to somebody on the ground, depending upon where they are, it would be less than 8,000 feet. You would subtract whatever that elevation is from 8,000 feet.
So if you're, like there was a lady here, the house looked down on Visitation Valley, she's probably in San Bruno Mountain somewhere. So for her, she might only be 6,000 feet above her, right?
That's possible, yes.
Mike?
Okay.
I think you're probably referring to a different flight path, because I don't think that these flight paths would be going to the North Peninsula, because once they come over Woodside, they are vectored. They come down the peninsula, like to Menlo Park, Palo Alto, and then swing up for their landing pattern.
Correct.
Okay,
but
so that's not the-
right. But and basically down in Woodside area, it's mostly arrivals, correct?
You know, that's all we're talking about right now.
Yes, these
That's-
are
that's all
arrivals
we're-
over the
we're-
ocean.
We're not
You
talking
know,
about
The North
departures.
Peninsula would like to talk about departure.
Well,
too.
I understand. We'll get to that, but that's not what this is. That's not what the Pirate is.
Okay.
Okay?
The last
right.
thing I would add to that is both Oakland and San Francisco arrivals were coming in before the Pirate was published and after the Pirate was published. That won't change. The aircraft that were pulled off, prior to the Woodside VOR and sent north to go to Oakland, that would still be occurring.
Okay. All right. So I thank you very much. I'll let you take a break, and I'll call the public. I'll close the members' comments and open the public comment. Mary Jo Fremont has a comment on this item number 6. Mary Jo from Palo Alto. Okay.
We get them in Palo Alto. So as long as we're talking about oceanic arrivals, I want to correct the record because...
We're talking about the Pirate
yes,
only.
Right,
Okay.
Pirate 2, we do get them.
Okay.
They come from Hawaii, they come from Australia, they come from New Zealand, but they also come from China, Hong Kong, Shanghai. So oceanic arrivals is not a small little thing. Yes, the volume is less than other routes. However, they also come at night, and that also includes in the middle of the night. So that's midnight, that's 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and that includes also cargo plane. For the record, this Pirate 2 was not a select committee recommendation. It was not a recommendation from this roundtable. The FAA created a procedure which is not represented, was never asked. What the select committee asked was to cross Woodside at 8,000 feet mean sea level. But what I want to bring your attention to in addition to this is Pirate 2 was published. The FAA worked on it for a long time. How come they missed a conflict between a departure and arrival? It's all about safety, we're told. Next Gen is going to make us safer. I can tell you I live in Palo Alto, it's not safer. So how come this was missed? This for me is a 737 MAX error on the software because this thing is not tested. I don't know what else I don't know. The other thing is they know it's not safe. But this thing is still published. Why do you keep a procedure that is unsafe, that cannot be used supposedly, published on the famous IFP gateway? And I don't know what IFP stands for, but it's the website where the FAA publishes things. So safety was not part of the equation, or the testing is not done. And what's happening now is these aircraft can come. Now, Oakland, it's open to Oakland traffic, and I can tell you, I get FedEx plane over Palo Alto at midnight that before were coming over to the San Mateo Bridge. Now, no, they come over Palo Alto, and they go down from 8,000 feet at Woodside to 4,000 feet in Palo Alto.
Thank you, Mary Jo. All right, so I hope that our skies are safe and that we are not flying unsafe procedures. I just have a comment about the decline in air traffic, maybe because people are concerned about the safety of aircraft, with the 737 MAX happening. I don't know, but if any of our roundtable members have gone on the Noise 101 tour to see the air traffic controllers and what they do in NorCal TRACON facility, it is amazing what they do. And I think that what the FAA and the technicians do to keep our skies in our Bay Area, very congested environment, safe, is amazing. And so I know that the noise is terrible, and I'm hoping that we are making some movement, like on the night hush procedure, and we're going to talk about some other items that we had submitted to the FAA in a letter dated May 3rd that Joe is going to brief us on some of the answers. I saw a hand go up, but did you want to make a comment?
I think that safety is two different things. It's safety in the air versus we're concerned, concern of safe
I understand.
noise
No,
damage.
no, I understand. But she was saying, Mary Jo was saying, safety, that they're flying an unsafe procedure.
I took it to mean safety on the ground. But
no, she said, no, that's not, yeah. Okay, so, and they caught it, I guess, in a short amount of time. So I guess we have to be thankful for that. So going on to item number 7. Joe, you're going to be presenting, you've got some answers to some of our questions that we presented in a letter dated May 3rd or May 2nd, and it's on page 31 of the agenda packet for any of the roundtable members to follow along.
Okay, so there were 2 questions posed to the FAA. The first was regarding the offshore, and it had a couple of different parts to it. The first was for request for video, or I'm sorry, for a graphic or video showing confliction points on the offshore procedure. We looked into that. We attempted to make a video showing that, and there was nothing really to be gained from it. It was just a mess of lines that you can't really gain anything of value from. The offshore conflicts with the stick and the candle for the entirety of the procedure. So it's not something that we can just point to and say, this is the confliction point. So with that, we opted to not provide an image for that. The next 2 were a request for, rather than a month's worth of traffic, a day's worth of traffic. Oops, did I just do that? And then the next was broken down by hour. So that's what these slides represent. This was the 1st of August, the last meeting. I believe it was Mindy presented a month's worth of data for August of 2018. This is August 1st. It was not a particularly heavy day for offshore. It wasn't a light day. There were stick departures, candle departures, but those are not indicated on that. And as the note says, This is a very simplified image of what's happening. This does not include any other departure traffic, arrival traffic, or transient traffic. And would you like me to click through all 26 slides, or
Why
how would you
doesn't
like
it
to
include the other traffic?
say again?
Why doesn't it include the other traffic?
Because the request was for offshore traffic. We have included other traffic in previous meetings. This request was just for offshore traffic.
So Justin, I'm gonna defer to Justin, our consultant, if this adequately answers the request that we had made.
I think can you go back to the first slide with the
Sure.
daily? I mean, I think the request for the conflict really has to do with the flights that go over land
The peninsula.
and why they're going over. You know,
Instead
at
of
at that moment in time, what was going on offshore that led that to go off, over land versus going out over the ocean.
So as I said, there will be multiple points of conflict with either stick aircraft departures or a aircraft that's overflying the area or a candle departure. Each flight will have its own unique set of circumstances.
So what percentage of flights do you anticipate? It's hard for me to determine because the lines are, all congested. But what percentage of flights do you see that are going over the western coast of when they should all be going out over the Pacific Ocean?
Okay, so the offshore, do you have the offshore chart that you could pull up? As I believe Mindy has talked about in previous meetings and possibly Fan as well, the offshore is a conventional procedure that aircraft rarely fly the whole procedure because they are vectored off of that procedure due to traffic. And so those aircraft that you are seeing flying down the peninsula rather than going offshore are probably those aircraft. It would be hard to tell without looking at each individual aircraft. So what this procedure is saying, if you look on page 2 of it, it describes what exactly the aircraft is to do. But up here, and this is not to scale, it has aircraft departing on the 333 and then turning left on a 203-degree heading to intercept this radial. It's not a precise procedure, it's a conventional procedure. And as I said, very few of those aircraft actually fly that procedure all the way out to that radial.
Justin, do you want to?
Yeah, we previously asked if they could change that conventional to, I guess I need to be closer. That we previously asked if we could change that to an RNAV
Correct.
departure procedure.
Correct. Good segue. So we have said that the FAA has said they'd be open to doing that. They would not be opposed to that. We also stipulated that the expectation of a flight or of a procedure being an RNAV would not necessarily mean more aircraft would fly that full RNAV procedure, just as aircraft don't fly the full offshore procedure, the conventional procedure now. Likely the same number of aircraft would be pulled off that procedure if it's an RNAV procedure as they are right now in the conventional. So the segue is, I just learned 3 hours ago that industry plans to submit an IFP gateway entry or instrument flight procedure gateway entry to make that an RNAV procedure. So that should be showing up in the IFP gateway soon. I'm not sure when they will put it in. I'm not sure how or what parameters they will be asking for. That will have to go through the FAA's .41 process, be fully vetted through that before anything would be published, if it was published. But again, the likelihood of aircraft flying that full procedure as opposed to what they are flying now on the conventional would probably be the same as it is today.
Why?
Because of those aircraft that are conflicting with it.
And how can we get those other aircraft to not conflict with a, RNAV procedure, with a stated procedure?
Okay, so as it's been said here, this is a complicated airspace, right? A lot of airports don't have the complications that NorCal has. for instance, LAX is a very busy area, right? SoCal has a lot of volume, a lot of aircraft. But LAX doesn't have competing large airports. They are the dominant airport, and they have their procedures are the primary procedures. We don't have that here. San Francisco and Oakland have competing procedures. Both airports are aligned to the winds, and so their runways are essentially the same. So both airports, the departures off of San Francisco go cross with, use the crosswind for departures because the arrivals need the headwind. So they depart up the bay, and Oakland is departing in the same direction. So you have two airports with two procedures sharing the same airspace. And so those aircraft, for two major airports, when those aircraft are departing, something has to give, and so those aircraft are pulled off the procedure and vectored.
Kathleen.
Sure.
The daily.
This is Kathleen Wentworth. She's with Congresswoman Jackie Spears' office, aviation consultant.
Yes. They are filed for the offshore, yes, and yes, they are assigned to flight. My assumption would be the majority of these aircraft have been vectored off the procedure and are being vectored by air traffic control.
So when you source this data, you have some way to say, tell me who's filed for the offshore?
By their flight plan. We can filter it by their flight plan, which would include the offshore departure procedure.
So going back to when NextGen was implemented and designed, I was given to understand that it was designed in such a way that handle and stick could be flown simultaneously and be safely separated.
I believe they can be simultaneously departed, but those procedures are not procedurally separated.
But they're both departing the procedure.
They are both departing the airports, but the procedures merge. They are not procedurally separated. They both meet at port.
Okay.
So,
I stand corrected.
right. Yep. So the port waypoint is approximately here, and both procedures use the port waypoint. So stick comes up like this to port, candle comes like this to port. So they share the same airspace.
Prior to that point, they are procedurally separated?
No.
When do they stop being procedurally separated?
When do they stop being procedural?
Well, here's Oakland or San Francisco, they're pretty separated.
Right. Okay. So
At what point
okay.
exclude procedure, at what point would it be a problem?
Pretty much right off the ground. I mean, they're procedurally separated when they're off the ground, but they are pointed at each other. So that's why aircraft need to be vectored.
That's
Okay.
crazy.
If they're allowed to fly the procedure, Oakland is going up Campbell,
Correct.
San Francisco is going stick. I don't know how many miles you need separation.
Typically 3 miles, but it depends on the weight of the aircraft.
So for some amount of time, if they're allowed to fly the procedure without vectoring, there's some amount of separation for some period of time, right?
Correct.
So where is the point where if they stay on the procedure, they're not separated?
Oh, yeah, that's too bad.
Kathleen, yeah, you didn't show up on TV at all.
And they can't. So NCT knows when aircraft are being released from both airports. I'm not sure if they have to get a release from NCT or the TRACON. But they are aware of when aircraft are being released from both airports. So when an aircraft comes off of San Francisco and when an aircraft comes off of Oakland, they are switched to NCT and they control those aircraft. When an aircraft comes off San Francisco and another one they know is coming off Oakland, NCT is going to turn that San Francisco aircraft so that the Oakland aircraft will be separated from that San Francisco aircraft.
I understand what they do.
Okay.
And what they're doing, but my question is, at what point
It would all depend upon when that aircraft was released from Oakland. So it would,
Can you give her this one?
I guess I'm not understand, go ahead.
You should come to that mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Alex, you don't have to do this. So, okay, so, well, you need a mic too. Oh, I'm sorry, good.
Adam Vetter, this is Adam Vetter. He is also from FAA Western Services in Seattle,
Yes.
and he's a coworker.
Yes. And so I don't want to give a ATC 101 lesson, but we're kind of mixing two different separation standards. What you were talking about is procedural separation. So as the aircraft are on the ground, of course, Oakland and San Francisco are far apart. They're much more than 3 miles apart. Air traffic controllers can use what they call radar separation. So as long as those aircraft are 3 miles apart in the entire length of the stick and candle, they're separated. The procedures are not. By saying a procedure is procedurally separated, that is replacing that requirement of radar separation. So as it stands right now, if two aircraft are released on the stick and the candle, they're not procedurally separated. They may be radar separated, but the procedures do conflict as soon as both aircraft depart the ground.
Okay.
Because
So-
in a non-radar world, you do have to have the lead time in front of each of the aircraft, and that is much further than 3 miles.
Okay, so, so when the procedure was designed, was this a known factor, that they could never really effectively use it?
I can't speak to that. Well, they can effectively use it because of the coordination between Oakland and San Francisco.
But they spent a lot of time designing two nice procedures.
I was not involved in that. I can't speak to that. But I'm just trying to explain the
get that.
difference in the separation. Yes, yes.
Okay, but, so you're saying that procedural separation, based on the path that exists, does not exist at all if two of them are airborne simultaneously?
I don't want to say that.
Okay.
On worst case scenario, I mean, it depends on the scenario. Air traffic control is so dynamic, especially with time. They are radar separated. I mean, that's how air traffic control is separated in the Bay Area's radar separation, by
Right.
using the 3 nautical miles. I came from an en route environment where you had to use 5. I mean, 3 looks like a mosquito bite on a radar scope.
So, just as a general question, Joe, I don't know, it's you, who's the question. We've got like 3 major southbound departures. We've got Candle off Oakland, Stick off San Francisco, and if we want to include the offshore of San Francisco as well. And they're all sort of going down towards port. Well, obviously the offshore is not, but that's another advantage. So, of those, anybody have an idea of what percentage of those 3 southbound routes get to fly the procedure to port without a vector? Any of them?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't have that number.
Well, so
So if that's the case, I mean, I think we're all sort of assuming that vectoring probably plays a greater than a majority role among the 3 southbound
majority of
flights.
aircraft are.
So with that in mind, you said something earlier about how the RNAV offshore, or the offshore departure, would be a conflict with Candle, but it's no more a conflict than Stick is currently, right?
Correct. What I was trying to point out is an RNAV offshore would be no different than the conventional offshore now. The same number of aircraft that come off the conventional offshore now, the same number of aircraft would likely be coming off the RNAV offshore as well.
Now, if you had an RNAV offshore that you designed, something, let's just say it's similar to what it is now. I know we have, some special use airspace and some other issues. But those folks who would be going offshore and not using port as a waypoint, so that they would be sort of removed from these other 2 procedures to some extent, and we'd be causing less conflict, right?
If they could get out to the ocean without conflicting with aircraft, then yes, likely. But it's before they can get there that they are being vectored inside of those Candle aircraft.
And those are the same reason, whether they're flying the Stick or the offshore, they're basically close enough to the same, they're going to be affected
Correct.
in the same manner.
So if I could just interject, so it would seem that this is San Francisco departures, and you're saying Oakland departures are kind of flying the same route, essentially. So if we overlaid Oakland departures kind of at the same day, like in a different color, we'd see a lot more
I'm asking if he has last month's presentation, because I
Flights
believe that showed
over.
both stick and candle and
over
offshore.
our Half Moon Bay and Pacifica residents and on down. See, I wasn't here last.
Can I ask a silly question?
Yes.
It seems from what you just described that they're usually, when they get vectored, they're vectored more towards the land than over the ocean. Is there a reason for that?
Can you say that again, please?
From what you just said, I'm understanding that when they get vectored, they're vectored more towards land than out towards the ocean from the procedure.
So the reason for that is your candle aircraft are above the stick aircraft. And so if there's an aircraft released off of candle and you have a stick aircraft already departing, they need to be turned inside. They can't be turned further out.
Got it. So
they conflict with the candle.
So candle is taking the outside and stick is taking the inside.
For the
Not
most
really.
part. But, yes.
So that's the whole month
There
of
are-
August.
Say again?
That's the whole month of August.
I believe that is, yes, that is August.
Right,
And
yeah.
so that is showing stick, offshore, and candle all together.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, and with my colleague sitting here, then obviously you can just look at that map and see how Brisbane gets hit hard, and then it heads right into Daly City, where these are underserved communities, and then there's no avoidance in it. I don't understand why it can't go further out in that area. 'Cause,
Into
I
the
mean, then
ocean.
we're here, and that's it. There has to be some kind of solution for the residents.
This is a slide for a month's worth of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. And so you are getting hit, and it is. I guess our misunderstanding that if you filed for a procedure, an RNAV procedure, you're going to have the ability to fly that procedure. Pretty darn close. But it seems like because of the conflict of the other airport, that at the same time, you're going to get pulled off. And instead of vectoring the flights further out, they just start coming closer and closer inland. And that's what's really disrupting our residents. And is there a solution? Is there a solution?
There's a big ocean.
I guess.
Thank you.
It's hard for us to kind of come up with the correct questions to ask. Diane,
I don't know,
San
but
Mateo.
can you fly higher, faster?
Fire
I'll
faster.
stay at once. In other words, no, in other words, if I may.
Okay, we'll just have to kind of keep our comments here.
If I may, the ones that are coming off, what is it, Candle? You said that they are higher than Stick. Did I get that part right?
Well, they're coming from Oakland, so they have more time to gain altitude.
They are further north.
Could be.
It would all depend upon the aircraft and their performance as to what altitude they would be at.
Couldn't it be
If they
higher?
are higher, the ones that are coming from SFO could conceivably be higher. I understand the pattern. It's just that when they're flying so low over these
Exactly.
same communities, maybe they get some reprieve from being higher. Is there a way that you could make it, I know they conflict, is there a way you can make this conflict happen at different elevations?
I'm not
can
aware.
say no.
I'm not aware of.
Okay.
Aircraft are climbing to their aircraft characteristic performances, and I'm not sure if there's a way to modify that. I know there are climb gradients, and I'm not sure what the climb gradients on these are.
Okay. Kathleen, Ann Schneider.
Just to throw that idea on Ms. Pappin's comment, I had originally thought that if they were taking off on ones and they could do a steeper climb, that might reduce air here locally. But I've heard from other people that when you do that, you actually increase the amount of ground-based noise. So gaining that height that might help Brisbane or Daly City by going up on an elevation like this may actually make it worse for those of us who have that type of noise problem. But that's something we'll be looking at in the ground-based noise meeting, because I don't know if that's true or not. We really need some real good data on that.
Good, okay. So Kathleen Wentworth?
Sorry, I don't have my laser pointer, but as we look at, okay, there's Oakland, and as you can see, some of the flights are going down the bay, middle of the bay, beautiful departure. We like that one. Okay. I take it back. At any rate, that's one of the departures.
We live around the airport.
And you see another one that seems to go up towards the top. And that one goes probably right next to Candle. However, you do see another pathway here that is cutting it short and is not going up to Candle. It's to take, if you want to call it a shortcut across the bay. And obviously those aircraft don't get a chance to get the extra height they could get, to answer Diane's question, if they went up to Candle, to the official waypoint. So the question is there some way that this shortcut can be stopped and that they can continue up to Candle? Candle waypoint, yeah.
I'm not sure where the Candle waypoint
I'll show you where it is.
I believe that these aircraft are flying to Candle.
No.
I believe these aircraft are departing the long runway. These top aircraft are departing the short runway. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's what those are. I would have to look.
You could be right, but I do know that there are plenty of shortcuts that they take. I think if you look, you'll see that half of them don't go to Candle. Take up the number, but a good number of them don't. And that was a recommendation by the select committee also, that the aircraft go to Candle instead of the shortcuts.
To, like, fly the procedure a little bit more exact. So your update on that is that you got a update 3 hours ago that they're going to
Yes, so I was...
do the IFP gateway.
Yep.
Okay.
I was informed that an IFP gateway will be, entry will be made.
Well, that sounded hopeful to me. After our discussion, it doesn't sound that hopeful. I'm so sorry. Okay, I have...
I also had stick.
And, okay, you want to go? Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Okay, so stick, the request for stick was altitude data, both at the current and the potential stick. So at the last meeting, again, Mindy presented potential simulated tracks. And so if we can go to the Google Earth. So the request was for what altitudes aircraft would be on the current stick when they cross the land and different points on the land, and then the potential stick. So the caveat again on this is we're using the potential stick that was part of a model back, I believe, last year that was no longer used because there was a waiver that we did not need to modify the stick waypoint. So this potential stick waypoint before tonight was no longer being considered. I have also found out with that an amendment to the stick is also going to be entered into the IFP gateway for farther down on the procedure, at the end of the procedure, on each of the transitions. Those transitions are going to be backed off a bit. So the rest of to port and then some beyond, there's going to be no change on the stick. But what that will require is a re-evaluation of the stick waypoint due to the existing criteria. So that could be where the potential stick waypoint on this is shown, or it could move. I'm not sure where it will be. It will have to be evaluated to current criteria, which I'm not sure if that's changed from where it was looked at last year. So as far as the altitude, we've provided KMZs that can be opened in Google Earth. It has the 3 waypoints: stick, that potential stick, and then port. And if you right-click on the procedure over on the left-hand side, not on the waypoint, but on the procedures. Nope, the long ones. Yep, there you go. Down at the bottom, it says show elevation profile. That will open up this graph at the bottom. And then if you move your mouse along the graph, the graph, it moves the arrow up on the flight path, and it gives you the altitude at wherever you're looking. So you can look at that and get whatever altitude you would like.
So could you call out those numbers?
Sure.
Yeah, like right there, stop.
Where would you like?
Where it crosses land, Dave, maybe?
Tell them where to stop the arrow.
Right there.
Right there.
6,386, and you're looking at that's the potential, which is the magenta color. But again, this is just a simulation. This is not flight track data. We could have done this on an actual flight track for the current, but we didn't have that for the potential, for the simulated. So instead, we chose to do like for like and did simulated for both the current and the potential.
Okay, just 1 second. Justin, can you respond to this, react to this?
So I just have one question.
Sure.
So you don't have the existing, so we can't compare it, but this
No,
is.
the teal is
Oh,
existing. Well, I'm sorry, it's a simulated of the existing.
Okay, simulated of the existing.
Yep.
Okay.
Simulated with in the same manner that the potential was.
And can we look at the altitude of what that one is compared to the other one?
So if you right-click on he is on the current now. So that is at 5,723, and I'm not sure if that was the same point as before. So you're at 7.4 miles down here. So if you go to the other one and go back to 7.4 miles down here, left, there you go. That's 5,607, approximately.
And just to recap, you're saying that there's an IFP gateway entry that could
There
be.
will be
There
one.
will be one, and that will cause a reevaluation of potentially where that waypoint be located.
Yep, so as we've told you before, we had a waiver with the stick that we did not have to reevaluate the stick waypoint for the criteria until the stick was amended. This IFP gateway entry will amend all of the procedures that use those transitions, so that would be what I was told it should be the stick, the candle, the Westla, the say hey, and the catfish departures. Those all use the same transitions off of port, and it's beyond port that the change would be. But like you said, that will trigger a reevaluation of the stick waypoint.
Chair.
Yes, Michael.
Okay, yeah, you said that was 5,300 something, right? Is that from the mean sea level,
Yep,
or is that
that'd be
from?
MSL.
Okay, so if you're on a San Bruno Mountain or a hill in Pacifica, and you're up 800 to 1,000 feet, you're now looking at the altitude is 4,000 feet, maybe.
Correct.
Okay.
Subtract that AGL, that ground level altitude, from the MSL.
Okay, and now you're saying this is going to be on the IFP. Now, I'm new here, so is that the website or where you can actually put in public comments because you're changing things?
Oh.
No.
So the IFP gateway entry, or the IFP gateway is a gateway that the FAA uses to list potential procedural changes or creations of procedures. So it is a notification method, and it does not include public comment. It includes comment from industry, thank you, and air traffic control facilities, things like that.
So
Public comment would come in with an environmental analysis if one was done.
is there going to be an environmental analysis?
I can't speak to that, I don't know yet.
Is there someone in the FAA that can notify the
Like I
staff
said,
so
I
they can
learned
notify
about
us?
this 3 hours ago, so I'm not sure what the status of this is. It's new. I'm not sure what it's going to entail. It will have to go through the .41 process.
And what is that process?
That is the process where all procedures that are created or amended have to go through. So it includes a environmental analysis. It includes. I'm drawing a blank. Go ahead.
So,
So Joe?
Not sure I know that.
Can,
Yeah, 71, it's a FAA order 7100.41. It's the name of an order, and we hand it to the dot 41.
7,841?
7100.41.
And that's
FAA JO.
FAA.
JO for joint order.
Okay, and is that, can you look that up on the web?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Oh, you'll send it to you? Okay. But then does that allow public comment? It's,
Part of that process is an environmental review. And if an environmental analysis is done, if an environmental assessment is done, that would include a public comment.
okay.
okay.
I don't know if this would include that or not. I
Okay.
don't, that's out of my realm.
Okay. Well, what triggers the environmental review?
That's out of my realm. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have another comment here. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, after looking at it, what are the significant changes? It looks relatively the same, or?
Of these two procedures, or of these two images? Okay, so as I said, the teal is a simulation of the current stick.
Okay.
The magenta is a simulation of shifting the stick waypoint. So last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, they were looking at moving the stick waypoint 0.44 miles southeast of the current location. That no longer, that did not happen.
Okay.
They were going to, and then they received a waiver from Oklahoma City that said they don't need to until the next time the stick procedure is amended. So that was canned. It was discarded.
Okay.
But the request from the FAA was to look at that. So before 3 hours ago, my understanding is that is in the past. We're not looking at that anymore. Okay. The reason we were looking at it tonight was because you folks asked for that information.
So if you move the stick waypoint, you don't know where they're going to move it now? Okay.
It'll have to be evaluated to the current criteria, which I don't know if that's the same as what it was when this one was.
But if you move it southeast, right?
Sure.
Then it would give us more time to gain altitude, would it not?
You would have to look at, we would have to look at that. I'm not sure what the results of that would be. But you can use these to get an idea of possibly what it might do.
Right, but it would seem to me that you do, and that what we need to have happen is we need to gain altitude. But again, what other air traffic will it conflict with is
the same that it does now, the candle.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any other member comments? I'm going to open it for public comments. Yes, Kathleen.
So this is a great simulation. Thank you for bringing this. This is really good. So after talking about the 3 departures that are all crowded up together, and then showing this, how many airplanes do we think take off on the stick that are turned before stick? And I don't mean a mile before stick. I mean before stick.
Very few of any. I don't believe any are turned before.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that.
I don't know many. I mean, they are, but I don't know how many. That's why I was hoping to get some more information.
He wants you to be louder. He can't hear you.
Oh. Sorry. So what kind of, so you don't think we have a great majority of them turning before stick vectoring?
That is correct.
Okay. So I do have 2 public comment. Joe, I think, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll let you sit down and we'll take these 2 public comments. Liz Lopez from San Francisco and Peter Grace from Brisbane have a public comment on this topic, this item, agenda item. Okay.
I just want to make it clear to everybody that like offshore and stick and candle all go over Visitation Valley area of San Francisco. So we're constantly inundated with noise. And these flights are not really getting any higher. They're kept artificially low, from my understanding, because they're in conflict with the stick. And so over my house, we'll have either somebody on the offshore, and then we'll also have stick coming over, but then we'll also have the candle like crisscrossing it at the same exact time as they're going over. So there's like, 15 or so flights of the stick coming over, and then plus we have the candle, and then also some of the bodega. But I just wanted to know, what is that artificial, not artificial, but the actual separation between these flights? So if you have like the candle and then the stick, like what's the separation between the two?
The vertical?
The vertical
1,000
separation.
feet. Is it? 1,000 feet.
1,000 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all. I just wanted to know that. And then also this data that they're at 5,000 or so feet. That's not. That goes against what the data we got from the SFO Noise Abatement Office was in Excelsior District. They're like coming over at 3,000, 4,000, and 5,000 feet. And so, and also at late at night, they're over my house in Visitation Valley at 2,700 feet. Wow. So I just want to make it clear that I guess this is, like you said, a simulation, an approximation, interpolation of data points. It's not really how we experience the noise in our area. So, thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Peter? And then we have one more for this item, Jennifer from Sunnyvale.
Thank you for the simulation. What I would like to see is it compared to what actually happens in practice. And my belief is the planes are 1,000 feet lower in that area, and that's based on records from the San Francisco Noise Abatement Office, 500,000 records for the period 2010 to 2018. Until you actually tell us, you compare your simulation to what's actually happening, it doesn't tell us anything, and you'll get great resistance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Jennifer?
I just had a simple question, and that is concerning the stick. Turn the mic on. I had just had a single question about the stick procedure that was being discussed, and that was, I thought I heard something about the port waypoint being moved. It is not. Okay, that's good. The other thing that I just wanted to make sure is, in that it's not being moved, would there be any modification on the peninsula and the departures going over the peninsula based on the fact that port is not being moved? Because we are experiencing many of the departures, and they can be very loud, especially in the evening and night. Thank you.
Okay. Sunnyvale. Okay, thank you. Okay. We will continue to work with the FAA and see what the stick waypoint is going to be moved to. Okay. We're going to, the item number 8 was the update on night hush, and we already did that. So we're going to go on to number 9, update on the ground-based noise ad hoc subcommittee, and turn it over to the vice chair, Ricardo Ortiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to first of all apologize to all of you who are following our committee. We had just a crazy conflict of schedules, and we were forced to reschedule the meeting, but we do have it coming up. So we have the next meeting would be June 26th at 10:30 at the classroom in Millbrae. So it'll be right down the street here. So, and Lynn, you will pass that along to your members, please. That'd be great. This would be, again, we're just going to continue the process. Let me read what Linda wrote me. This will be a critical meeting at which we will assess what might be missing from existing data related to the ground-based noise. So hopefully we get some more roundtable members to assist, as well as members to the public. again, we had some great information from members of the public, so I appreciate all of those who were there. And again, we have a very informed group that follows us. And we're also interested with the new monitoring system, the capacity for SFO, but specifically for ground-based noise. So we want to learn a little bit more about that, and that will be, again, just understand how the new system works specifically for ground-based noise. And I think Bert and I had talked a little bit about that, so hopefully we get a little more of that. And that's all I have for you. So looking forward to seeing everybody June 26th at 10:30.
Yeah. I was going to say, make the announcement, because you've set that date, right?
I am formally announcing.
June 26th. Okay. And where will it be held?
It will be right at the classroom. And you want to give me?
Yeah, the small room in our temporary rec center.
Just around the corner here. Yeah.
Yeah, in the
portable.
temporary.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any roundtable member have a question or comment on this? Okay, thank you. We don't have members of the public. We'll go on to our item number 10, the noise monitoring system hardware software RFP update. I guess David or Bert, Justin, who's going to take this? Bert.
I think Bert's.
You made it, so
start.
you get to do it. Thank you, Bert.
Yeah, you show up back from a meeting, staff says, great, you're here. So, anyway, it's a fine, Dave, thank you. I don't mind doing it. Real brief, we just got the contract approved and through our airport commission. So we contracted for aircraft, go ahead and go to the next slide. The noise monitoring system software and hardware update. The company selected based on merit, and the proposal was Brule & Care. They are our current provider as well of our airport noise and operations monitoring system. Another acronym to knock off your charts there. Another one, just real quick sidetrack on that one, that's specific to Brule & Care. So if you're talking about anybody else's, you can refer to a NOMS, N-O-M-S, Noise and Operations Monitoring System. We have a gentleman by the name of Greg Bracci with us tonight. If you wouldn't mind giving a wave real quick. He's with Brule & Care, and he's in town to say hello. And we will be having our kickoff meeting next week to go ahead and start formally into this. Current system's 15 years old, some components a little older. And under this contract, the software, all noise monitors, and our weather sensors will be replaced. The 29 noise monitors that are permanent in the community will be replaced. We have 3 ground run-up or engine run-up noise monitors. For those of you who don't know, those are monitors on the airfield that when aircraft go out there, the mechanics to test them after maintenance, such as your car mechanic driving around a block, well, they don't go fly them. They pull them out to the airfield, run the engines up to power, make sure there are no leaks and everything is fine, and then they'll sign it, certify it, and get it ready to go. We like to monitor that, see what noise translates out in the community. Helps with our ground run-up noise, too. The 4 portable noise monitors, and we're getting 4 more. We've had a lot of requests for that. Our airport director, Ivar Satero, listened to you when you said you wanted the capability for us to do more. We will be able to do more. So we have 8 coming. The noise weather sensors at all of our permanent locations will be 6 parameter weather sensors. So we'll be able to pick up, oh my gosh, temperature, humidity, wind speed, direction. What are my other 2, Dave? Drop the ball. Got humidity. Oh, rain and yeah.
Tornadoes.
Got that one too. So anyway, we got it all, and those help us when we're trying to figure out why noise levels are higher in certain areas than others. So we'll be able to dig deeper into our data. Again, as I just said, more data, more capabilities. gives us the advances in the information technology and the robustness of the new software we'll have faster servers. We'll also have faster internet connections. So we've basically given the whole thing a revamp, and it will help us serve the community and the Roundtable a lot better. The going to have real-time noise tracking and flight track data delivery and analysis, so the staff can investigate and deliver faster responses to community concerns rather than waiting quite so long. We'll also be able to share the results faster with our stakeholders. And we're going to have an interactive public-facing website with this for easier reporting. So, again, I mentioned the kickoffs next week. We look forward to giving you more. Don't have much more at this time, but I am open for questions.
Thank you, Bert. Any members of the, I see a hand, Ann? Make a
Okay, so first question, the new monitors, are they going to take into take in low-frequency noise?
The noise monitors are capable of doing low-frequency noise, yes.
Okay, but the
state
current...
of California and the federal government, if I may hold you for a moment, asked that we certify our system to decibels A-weighted. That's what the whole premise of buying and certifying the system is based on. Beyond that, we don't mind getting into the weeds with other supplemental metrics at all.
Okay, and is that part of the current process that you're going through? The data that we need to be able to do the ground-based noise?
We will be able to pull low-frequency data.
Okay, and the monitors that are being replaced that are 15 years old, are they going back into the same places?
No.
So they're going to go into new areas? They're going to be set up in new areas?
The old monitors are going away. They're going to be
and the new monitors are going back in the same location?
Exact location.
Okay, so if I recall, Monitor 8, which is in the Millbrae Corporation yard, is almost pointless in having because it's automatically discounted by being next to the train, being next to BART. So why would we be putting up a system that's, I've got it written in my notes. I don't know if it was at this meeting or at a ground-based noise meeting. If some of these locations aren't giving us data that are any good, why are we putting them back in the same locations?
Site 8 has good data. The problem is not the noise of the trains or anything like that or the BART. The issue with Site 8 has been the fact that we have, when we got it certified, the radar track started off the departure end of runway 1, which means almost 2 miles away. So the system, the way it was working then, would try to say, I have a noise event. Do I have any flights nearby? The answer to that's no, it did not.
Which is why a good number of Millbrae complaints never registered.
No. Millbrae complaints always registered. We always put them in the system. They did not correlate.
Okay.
Now.
So they didn't show up in the report?
No.
Because I know on months where I made reports, the numbers didn't show up.
Okay, so.
So I'm just trying to make sure that the data.
With you and
okay,
figure that
then
out.
here's my last one. The data that we're also missing.
Ann, I'm going to interrupt you, and we can take this.
One more question, Elizabeth?
Yes.
We've been waiting 4 years to get
Listen,
something
do not
that will
argue with
actually
me,
help our
Ann, about
community.
this. Please,
If
be
the new
respectful.
monitors are going to take into account the topography that we've got, the basins that we've got, the canyons that we've got, and that's not just Millbrae, that's any of the cities that are getting affected by ground-based noise and the reflection of that kind of noise.
Monitors know. If it's reflected noise, they'll take it in. Monitors are dumb. It's like this microphone.
I'm not talking about
If
the
I turn
monitors,
this
the
microphone
locations of them.
upside down, it would not register.
I understand that. I'm talking about the locations.
I think that we need to take this offline. I really do. So.
We can spend
yes.
hours and hours and years
yes. And so,
about noise
Bert,
at
I have a
8,000
question
feet,
for
and
you.
We're talking about 1,000 feet.
So, Bert, can I ask you a question? How are you going to determine where these noise monitors, new noise monitors, are going to be located, given the fact that some of the older noise monitors seem to have been positioned in places that may not be as practical, given the circumstances that we have today?
Well, you're asking me a delicate question here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The noise monitors are actually supposed to be located to validate your noise contour. And so I think what we need to do next time is bring a map of our noise monitor locations and the noise contour. Oh, actually, can you bring up the director's report with it in there? It has the monitor locations on it, yes? We can show you real quick.
Okay.
I don't want to take too much of your time.
No.
I know we're
And
past 9 o'clock.
So the other question I have is,
Mhm.
is this just an upgrade of our existing software? Is it the same ANOMS system, or is there a new,
Somewhat. We are getting a lot of new features with it.
okay. And
So
so
there
in
are a
your
lot of new
opinion, this is kind of
capabilities.
the best that we can do?
And we're also doing a lot of things to answer the ground-based noise committee. So I want to put your mind at ease. I'm not trying to fight you. I'm just saying there are certain things you're asking to have to say no to, other things that we're going to be able to hopefully say more yes to. So right here, we're looking at our noise monitoring sites right here, 12, 29, 10, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 22, 1, 5, 15. So you can see most of the noise monitors are located where it would be validated by this noise contour. The green is the 65 decibel noise contour. So the state of California wants us to be able to validate this by the endpoint. So here, here, here. This is over the bay, doesn't matter. And so they would like to see at least 3 points tie it together. For if we were more conventional with a land base over that direction, over the north side of us. Now, since we don't have that, what we're doing is we're relocating at the old locations to validate. We're going to certify at least the 12 or 13, possibly more, that we had before to make sure that we're in compliance with the state of California and beyond. And then those that are outside, San Francisco, Redwood City, Hillsborough, those monitors are well outside the noise contour. We do plan to keep those for the community. We don't plan on shutting them down.
Okay.
Now, are they required? No.
All right. We do have any other comments from the roundtable members, because we do have 2 speaker slips on this item. Mike?
A question is, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said these are at the parameters of where the noise is, correct? Did I hear?
At the parameters, I'm not following on that exact
That
term.
you were required to put these noise monitors where you thought the noise was, basically, right?
Based on our modeled noise contours. So originally, based on numbering, if you look at the lower numbers, 1, 4, 6, 2, 3, 12, 9, 8, 10, 11, 13, they were trying to make sure that they had that contour laid out and could plot it and back it up with hard data.
Okay, then have you done anything to see if the noise contours have changed because of next gen?
Contours are generated quarterly. In fact, we have our contours going back 3 years, and we're able to lay them on and run them consecutively. And you can see ebbing and flowing. You will, based on weather, which runways were used that month and date, things like that.
Right.
But they're all tracking pretty true.
Let me just interject a second. Mike, the noise contours are not a fluid every day or every month event. They are done. Go ahead.
If I may interject, there are 2 types of contours. There are the federal noise contour. That one's every 5 years or 1.5 decibels change, and that is static.
Yeah.
The state contour changes quarterly based on our measure of it, and it is more dynamic. Yes.
Is this a state contour?
This one is a state, first quarter of 2019.
Great. Okay. So, yeah. And
So, well, I was just looking to see is seems to be a lot of people here from Visitation Valley, Daly City.
Would they get one?
I don't, there's me from Pacifica, but but it doesn't seem like there's a lot there when there's a lot of people here talking about their noise.
This is a cumulative noise contour. We're talking over noise over 24-hour periods for the period of the quarter. And so when you take noise events all day long and into the night, and then you have periods of respite where you don't have noise, average all that together, this is what you get.
That
Now,
didn't
if we're
answer
looking
my
at
question.
single event noise, that's a different story. Tell you what, I definitely need to have you at our Noise 101. We missed you last time.
Yeah.
No, I went to the airport one.
Okay.
Where we got the tour, yeah.
Then we need to actually get more into noise, the noise and decibel levels with you.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Oh, yes, yes.
I'll make this quick. Thank you, Chair. So I know when this was done, but as far as in Daly City, it's been recently, there's been more noise increase over our Bay Shore area. So I don't know if that is like even over the last 30 days, 4:30 in the morning, 30 times a day. So is there going to be like any update for those residents?
This is January, February, March.
Because this has been more recent that I've received a lot
We
of
do
complaints.
quarterly.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it'll reflect.
Yeah, and I'd like to find out why these changes have been made, where they're receiving more of this.
Please, talk to me after the meeting.
Great.
Give you my email. We'll go ahead and exchange the data with you.
Bert, Justin has a comment.
I wanted to, just clarify. So the new system will go through system acceptance, right, through the airport, but
Certification
also
acceptance.
go through certification for Title 21, correct?
Correct.
And that would be re-looking at your thresholds and various things of that nature.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So we will be relying on Brule and Care. We will also probably ask our consultant as well. And may offer it to the Roundtable's consultant too for a look-see. I have no problem with that. We want to make sure that everybody's in agreement on it.
So has the contract been signed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. And you wanted to make one more
So
comment?
the final problem with these reports that we get every month is that they show the typical flight patterns. They don't show runway 19 departures. And since that affects predominantly Millbrae and to a degree Burlingame and slightly to Hillsborough, it's not a lot of flights, but some years it can be quite a few flights. And if you're underneath that flight pattern and you can't sleep, now you can always say, well, those happen in the wintertime, so people might have their windows closed, but it's another reason why residents in our areas are not qualifying for the insulation program. So it would be nice to have a report that actually reflect the real conditions that are here. This winter, we had a lot of runway 19 departures. And 3 weeks ago, on May 15th, I had a runway 10 departure. So these things do actually happen. And yet the data never, you have to really dive into it and know what you're looking at to be able to see that. And the monitoring devices should collect the data to be able to explain to people why they should or aren't being included in that.
They definitely do. Now,
They don't if I only have 3 houses in Millbrae inside the contour. Bert, it just cannot be.
Definitely do. Now, what I can do is discuss with you perhaps doing daily runs during a period such as that, or going back and rerunning data such as that, so that you can see on a daily how they ebb and flow. I can actually show you some samples that we have from quite a while ago, and also Denver. We got their samples too. It's really interesting to see HMMH's product called Real Contours, where you could do all sorts of crazy things with it and develop contours based on these various specialties you're looking at. And it's really interesting to see how they ebb and flow.
Okay. I'm going to
Choose
close
which
our
homes get to
comments
qualify for
and open it up for public. I'm going to open up public comments at this time. We have 3 speaker slips, and it's James Charas from Brisbane, Peter Grace, and there's one more, Lynn Israelet from Burlingame. Okay. Oh, and Liz Lopez. Okay. It's the last hurrah, everyone.
Hello? Hello? I guess.
Hello.
Okay, I'll be quick because I got
Thank you.
catch a flight, and I apologize in advance if I'm flying over your home on my way out.
Well, we all love to fly, don't we?
So, reading from, since we're talking about all this noise monitoring equipment, which is great, I'm looking at CCR Title 21, Division of Aeronautics, Section 5024, I'm just going to read this brief paragraph under the audit section. It says, for each noise problem airport, the county shall review and audit noise monitoring data supplied by the airport proprietor for the purpose of ensuring that the data were produced in accordance with the monitoring system plan approved by the department. I guess that's Caltrans. And that the information presented by the airport proprietor is certified as being true and correct by the person in charge of operating the noise monitoring system. So I'd like to know who in the county is doing these audits, or who will be doing these audits, so we can find that out. And maybe the public can look at the information, see how the audit went. So if you guys could respond to that, I would appreciate it.
We'll take a look at that for you. Thank you so much. Thanks. Peter? Did he? Peter Grace? Oh, he's coming, yes.
I can come up with lots of data and things like this, but I think this is such a technical problem, a discussion. This should be a subject in the next technical working group where we can thrash it out. This is too complicated to try and explain here.
Yes, thank you so much. Lynn Israelet?
I also will keep this brief, but I do understand Anne's level of frustration when we're talking about location of the new sound monitors. I don't really understand the purpose of purchasing new expensive equipment if we are just going to put them in the exact same places. I understand there are federal and state reasons to measure at certain points, but one of the reasons that we did go ahead and purchase some of this new equipment is because of the massive new complaints of ground-based noise. So if we are not going to look at particularly affected neighborhoods or consider the topography and where outside of these contours, which are not actually what we experience living in these communities, if we aren't going to consider the best places to put some of these monitors, it is pretty pointless to put them up. My understanding is a lot of this contour is to bring up the limits of the 65 decibels for house retrofitting, for soundproofing, but we are looking beyond that. It doesn't make sense to just do the same thing over and over again. So I do beg you to think about where we put some of these new sound monitors, or we will not get any new helpful information if we do the same old thing.
Thank you very much. We have another speaker for this item, Kendra Locke.
Can you hear me? Yep. Hi again. Okay, so my map I showed you earlier, like 30 plus flights over my home. I'm the house up on the hill in San Bruno. And what I'm concerned about is, this is back on elevation. I was on the phone with the noise abatement office. I was speaking with David. At one moment, a plane came over. I could actually read the identifying number on the plane. So what I'm concerned about, like Anne has said also, what your records and what your surveys show does not correlate to what we're experiencing. So I don't know how we're going to get to the bottom of this, but like I said, we've had that house since 2003. We've never had a problem until 3 months ago. And then I just want to bring up again, last Monday, for 11 hours straight, 30 plus flights over our house. That was for 11 hours, so I would say 330 departures over my home, not to mention Visitation Valley down below. So I'm curious why, and let me bring this up one more time. This was Monday, Memorial Day, which I expect that traffic would be a lot higher, possibly the departures. But I wonder why this Monday I didn't hear a single plane all day long. So the past 3 days have been incredibly light, but why on some days are we getting up to maybe 300 plus departures over our homes? Doesn't make sense. And the elevation, I mean, how is it that I could read the identifying number off the plane? Too close to my home.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to the next item.
Madam Chair,
You
just-
oh, sorry, Mike,
Just-
bring it back to the members.
Could we try to, like, we have here, it says Pacifica 19. Could we have a little bit more specific, like where in Pacifica or Millbrae or Burlingame they are?
Yeah.
The elected officials may if they come by the office. Unfortunately, our legal staff has said no. We may not release that information. Some of them are on private property.
Okay, Kim, we, as a member of the roundtable,
You may
come
come
to
by
your
the
office and look?
and meet with us.
Okay.
Or talk to us on the phone.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Linda? Linda Wolin is Supervisor Dave Pine's assistant and legal aide, and she is filling in for James Castaneda while he's away. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to add one thing. First of all, apologies that Supervisor Pine is not here tonight. He had a conflict. But just to kind of summarize this discussion about the new monitoring system, I think we really view the introduction of the new technology and the updated monitors as an opportunity to reset how we do some things. And we're going to continue. We've been talking internally and with the noise abatement office, and I'd love to talk with the vendor as well about what the capacity of the new system is and what we should do in the future. So that means, first of all, I do want to open up the location of the monitors. There are some of those monitors that are required by law to be in certain places. Fine, the airport can put them, but there are others that are there is a little bit more flexibility. So let's have a discussion about that. Number two, Bert has already expressed interest in revising the reports. They've already done an excellent job. They worked on it really hard a couple years ago to provide reports that were more useful to roundtable members and to the public. They changed a lot of things. They're much easier to read now. It sounds like they're willing to look at that again. So we welcome suggestions from the public and from members about what to ask Bert to include and his office to include in future reports. Great. Same thing with Title 21. I can talk to whoever made that comment about the county responsibility. It's very complicated, but the big picture is that the county is a participating member of the roundtable, so we will be asking for Title 21 information to be coming through the roundtable in the future. Up until now, Title 21 reports have gone directly from the airport to Caltrans without coming through the roundtable, and we're going to work that out, and we will hopefully be able to introduce a new process at a future date. So all of that to say, this is the beginning of a process with the new stuff, and I think we'd like to have further conversations with the roundtable. Maybe the chair would allow it to be agendized for the August meeting, that maybe the vendor would be willing to make a presentation about some of the capacities or reporting that other airports have used so that it can all be more useful. So I hope
that sounds good. Thank you, Linda. Thank you very much for your perspective from the county's office. And Ivar?
Yeah, I totally, I get the community's concern about the placement of the noise monitors, and I think, what we want to do is have that confidence that when we do this, it's done appropriately. I think the idea of teeing this up at the August meeting is a great idea. In the meantime, Bert, is there a way with our portable noise monitoring system to do measurements to validate the appropriateness of placement of monitors and be able to before we commit to in-ground placement, that we've satisfied ourselves that we've done all the appropriate investigation?
Most definitely. Each new site we have to relocate, it would not be under the current contract, be a separate item. Also, too, they're about $30,000 on the low side. Well, actually, we already have the equipment, so excluding.
Yeah, I imagine there are a lot of, it's a hornet's nest that we're going to deal with, but I mean, the first thing is to make sure we get it right and that that we're not missing something.
Okay.
So I'm not worried about you know, the repercussions of opening up some things. We'll have to work through it.
Definitely we'll have to work through it. Definitely want to get cities' agreements that they would satisfy their own rules and regs first, colors.
Public
things like that.
participation is helpful too if we get that
Amen.
easement to install on public property, private property. That gives us a much quicker route to get this done. Does it? Or-
We like to be on the public property versus private.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you all. So we'll look forward to August meeting for more on this topic. It's a big investment financially, and it's a big investment in our residents gathering the data. We've got to get good data. Item number 11 is our NOISE update. Justin, do you have something briefly? Noise?
Sure. I will.
Would you
I even looked it up because I forget every time.
do the acronym?
Just for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. National Association to Ensure a Sound Controlled Environment.
No, it's National Organization because it's an
Oh, yes.
O.
Well, that's interesting. I pulled it from their website.
Isn't that silly?
That is
Yeah,
silly.
Noise. It's noise. Okay.
I do
We're a
have an
member.
update from Emily, who is from the organization. They had a March meeting in DC that was held in conjunction with the National League of Cities. Presentations included an overview of the organization, a federal update, challenges with adjusting RNAV flight paths, a paradigm shift in community involvement. She said that NOISE staff has been in communication with members of the Quiet Skies Caucus of New York, or in New York, to discuss continued collaboration. The June Next Gen Advisory Committee meeting has been rescheduled to late July. NOISE will attend, and they'll be providing us with updates.
Very good. Any comments on this? Okay. Other San Francisco Roundtable Noise 101 workshop update. Marty, you get to do that because you went. Did you have a good time?
Yes, this was on April 9th that a number of the new members were able to go and see inside the tower and how really fascinating it is. And when you're waiting on a plane, you're just concerned about yourself, but when you're in that tower and you're looking at what's going on, I'm glad we have very capable people in the tower that are looking out for us. Getting that tour was eye-opening, yet getting to understand what most people are having problems with the noise is something that I need to get more training on and education on. Coming from San Bruno, I come to expect the noise. And sometimes it gets worse, sometimes it doesn't. I'm hearing from different people, like I'm hearing tonight, that it's getting worse. Yet, I do want to thank staff, and I think the tour was very helpful to understand the operational difficulty of doing it. Yet, I think it's also helpful to get some more technical education and training and understanding of how that noise, when it leaves the plane, or it could, by changing a building, it could bounce into a little valley. And I'm glad to hear that we're going to be looking at moving potentially and getting a better real-time understanding of what's happening with these new noise monitors. So it was really quite fascinating. So I want to thank everybody for that opportunity.
Great. I think, it is a process to become familiar with all the jargon, and we do have in our agenda packet a term glossary of acronyms and terms. So hopefully you can study up on some of that, but to actually go out in the field and walk the tarmac, go up in the tower and see that. And I'm hoping that we might be able to did you get to go up to TRACON at the same time, NorCal TRACON? We haven't done that trip. It would be nice, Bert, to put something like that together again for us, because and speaking of the NorCal TRACON, I think I was amiss in not totally introducing the whole team of the FAA members that we have here tonight and making you sit through the whole meeting. But Raquel Gervin, I think you've met her once before or twice before. She is the regional administrator of the Western Pacific region, and she's comes up from El Segundo down south, but her team is the whole Western region. So Raquel, thank you so much for attending, and I hope that this was informational to you. And then you did get to meet Joe Brook, who is at the Western Service Center. He's an analyst, and his co-workers Adam Vetter, who spoke, and Mary Chandler, who's also an analyst up in the Western Service Center in Seattle. So they all came down to talk with us tonight. Lots of times their answers are not exactly what we want to hear, because it's not as easy as it may seem to us to solve these problems. But I mean, they're real problems. But I know that you all are working to try to help the community at large. So thank you, and taking time out of your days to do this. So Bert, you were going to talk about the NorCal TRACON people.
Yes, ma'am. Very quickly, I spoke with Than this morning. She said she's more than happy to help get something together. It's going to be a little bit of a hiccup. My counterpart over at Oakland is, I guess, stepping down from her position end of June.
No.
So usually the lead coordination.
That's true.
We'll be ending up taking the lead this time, and also bringing on board Santa Cruz, Santa Clara County Roundtable. So
Yeah.
dynamics will change a bit. We'll have to see what goes.
Okay. Well, thanks for that update. Okay. Okay. So other matters. We're on to aviation noise news and updates. Do you have anything really riveting?
It's in the packet, so if people want to email me or have questions.
Any questions from reading the packet about other noise?
There's a cool
Because
new
we've
product in there that Bert mentioned to me,
Yeah.
so take a look at that.
We've kind of gone over our time allotment, or targeted, but any member communications or announcements? Any fun things going on in your cities that you'd like to talk to us about? No? We welcome representative from Breeze. I hope you come back. Other than that, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Terry, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming.
Is this for me? Can I keep a copy, or you can
He's
send? Okay.
going to send us a copy too.
Okay.
That wasn't in our packet.